we shouldn't have any excuse really. I think we had the chance to get in the playoff, and the other teams kept giving us chances as well, and we just didn't take advantage. We didn't earn the right to be there, and that's why we're not there too.
Well, you heard it from Jonathan Marsh. So at the end of the day, this team just didn't do enough and really was not deserving of being in the Stanley Cup playoffs this season, which brings us to the final day of the Vegas Golden Knights regular season. Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Golden Edge for the final time of the 2021-22 season. I'm Matt Atencio. Joining me today are our Vegas Golden Knights beat writers for the Las Vegas Review-Journal, Ben Goetz and Dave Shane. And Ben, I'm going to start with you first. We'll kind of go back and forth here, but before we get into talking about all the negative stuff that happened, I do want to touch on the positive, because there were some good things that happened this season for the Golden Knights. Particularly, there were some players that had some really good seasons for them.
Yeah, I think the guy that you got to start with is Chandler Stevenson. To me, I thought he had an absolutely sensational year. He's obviously, I think, impressed a lot of people since coming over in that trade from the Washington Capitals. He's exceeded all expectations. That continued into this year. I think what was really impressive about this year from Stevenson's standpoint is entering this year, I think everyone kind of viewed him as the perfect third wheel, third banana to Mark Stone and Max Pacioretty. Those two guys obviously missed a huge chunk of time this season, and Stevenson kept producing. He had a very good season. That's something for him to build off moving forward into this year. So I think he's got to be right up there when you're talking about the Golden Knights MVP.
Awesome. And Dave, what about you? What are you thinking for players that really stood out this year?
We can mention Jonathan Marchessault, obviously leading scorer, a guy like Shea Theodore, who set career highs and goals, assists, points, just about everything. I'll actually point to the younger guys, though. We're going to talk a lot about the injuries, and that's a big storyline. And what kind of happened was it enabled some younger guys, Jake Leschyshyn, Jonas Romberg, and, especially a guy at goal like Logan Thompson, some of those younger guys, to get a taste of the NHL, have the organization feel like it has some depth, and just feel like, those guys are making progress. So as much as the injuries ravaged this team, there's a silver lining to it, and I think you can point to that.
Well, you guys mentioned the injuries a little bit. Obviously, that was really the big thing that killed this team this year. But let's go ahead and hear from Coach Pete DeBoer on kind of how he felt the season ended and all the injuries going on.
You want to explain it without making excuses, but the reality of this season, when I'm going to look back 10 years from now, is going to be, 500 man games lost. I think that bled into everything we did.
All right, so as we've been alluding to, as the players and coaches all today mentioned injuries, they mentioned all of the things that go along with that. But when you look really at what this team did on the ice this season, injuries don't tell the entire story. There were still a lot of problems going on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at the Knights kind of last week or so of the season, they did control their own destiny, and they lost to a lot of non-playoff teams at the end of the year. You lost in regulation to New Jersey. You lost in shootouts to San Jose, Chicago, and Dallas consecutively, and that's what officially got them out of the playoffs. So they did not finish the way they wanted to. Special teams were still a very large issue this year. They were below average both on the penalty kill and the power play. The power play has been an issue for the last couple of years. That's something this team has not remedied yet. And I think we got to talk about the goaltending, and we'll get into a little bit more depth here in a second, but just injuries and inconsistency bit that position all season.
But kind of now transitioning into the goaltending, which is something I really want to discuss. Dave, I'm going to turn to you on this. Can you kind of give us an update on what the timeline was with when Robin Lehner got hurt and all of the stuff that was going on through that?
I don't know how much time do we have. To be quite frank, I'm not sure how much clarity we really got from Kelly McCrimmon. I mean, basically we kind of heard there was a discussion Thursday and Friday, it sounds like, after that Washington game when Robin Lehner was pulled, and eventually, at least according to Kelly McCrimmon, and on that Saturday, Robin Lehner met with the doctor, and then it was determined that they were going to shut him down. There's obviously still some, just mystery, I guess you could say, about like why he had to dress. We heard from Kelly McCrimmon in terms of just some salary cap issues for that Sunday. I mean, to be quite frank, I don't think we got a lot of clarity. It's still kind of cloudy.
Well, this is certainly going to be an interesting story to follow over the coming months, going through free agency and into the start of next season as well. Speaking of the offseason, though, we're here at it. That finally, unfortunately, it's a little bit earlier than I think a lot of fans and even the players and coaches really wanted it to be at. But looking at what this team has to do now in the offseason, they sit $10 million over the cap right now. They obviously cannot play with this current team that they have left. So what do you guys think that this team really needs to do to be able to shed a bunch of that cap but still be able to contend for a Stanley Cup next season?
Yeah, they're going to have to make a lot of hard decisions. They're, about 500,000, 600,000 over next year's cap right now, but that's not obviously factoring the free agents that they have on this team, which is Riley Smith is an unrestricted free agent, Matthias Janmark, unrestricted free agent, Nick Waugh, Nick Hague, Keegan Colasar, and Brett Howden as restricted free agents. So the Knights are going to have to make some tough decisions on those guys, and obviously going to have to make some tough decisions on the guys that are still on the roster that they may need to move to clear salary cap space.
Well, it's certainly going to be an interesting offseason for this team. Definitely not going to be a quiet offseason. But anyway, that's going to do it for us here at the Golden Edge. For Dave Shane and Ben Goetz, I'm Matt Atencio. Thank you so much for joining us this entire season long. And if you're watching us here on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a comment down below what you guys think might happen during this offseason for the Vegas Golden Knights. We'll see you on the next one.